Om Shuklam Varadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasanna Dhyayet Sarvavighnopashantaye Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murtibheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, so Usha, can you mute your something? I'm getting echoes. So we had started with looking at Ganapati Stavam last week. We're going to just continue with that. I had covered 4 verses, and so we're going to start with the 5th. If any of you missed it, please you can go to YouTube, and if you can log in, search under Sri Dhiraji Ganapati Stavam, you will see the last week's recording. So I will just begin with the verse number 5. We have been looking at this particular prayer to Sri Ganesha, a prayer of praise. And in the process of this prayer, the words of the prayer go on to reveal both Sagunam and Nirgunam Rupam of the Lord, of Ishvara, of Bhagavan. And at the same time, it is a prayer to the Lord. And we will see later on what that prayer is about also. So moving on to verse number 5. Sada satvayogam muda kridamanam surarin harantam jagat palayantam aneka avataram nijajnanaharam sada vishnu rupam ganesham natasmaha. Sada satvayugam mrida kridamanam surarin harantam jagat palayantam aneka avataram nijajnanaharam sada vishnu rupam ganesham natasmaha. Natasmaha, I worship, I bow down to, I prostrate to Sri Ganesha, who is Vishnu. He says Vishnu Rupam. In the earlier verse, he had said Sada Brahma Rupam Ganesham Natasmaha. So here we are looking at the manifestations of Bhagavan at the Sagunam Rupam. Bhagavan manifest as the very universe, as the very creation itself. So as the creator, now when we say the creator with reference to the creation, Bhagavan is called the creator or Ishvara. And as we know in creation, there are 3 aspects. There is the creation, the sustenance, and the resolution, all 3, because time factor is there, time space is there in creation. So when I look upon Bhagavan as the creator, I look upon Bhagavan as Triputi or as threefold, which is Brahma, Vishnu, and Rudra, Rupam. So thus, in the previous verse, it was talked about Sri Ganapati being invoked as Brahma Rupam. You are indeed Ishvara. So you are Brahma Rupam, you are Vishnu Rupam, you are Rudra Rupam. So in this particular verse, he says, Sada Vishnu Rupam Ganesham Natasmaha. I worship Sri Ganesha as Vishnu himself, who is the one of the Triputi, the manifestation of Ishvara, like that. Sada Sattva Yogam, the one who is another Pathabheda reading also, which says Sada Sat Swarupam. So the one who is in the form of Sat, the one who is in the form of existence that transcends time and space. That is what is called as Satyam. That which is the truth of all. That is his real nature. Or I can even take it as Sattva Yoga, as Sattva Guna. So because, let's see, Sattva Yogam, the word yoga, as we know, indicates oneness, indicates union. Oneness between the individual and the Lord, individual and Bhagavan. And so this coming together, the oneness in terms of recognition, in terms of also one's feelings, one's own sentiment, is what is called as yoga. So I feel non-separate from the Lord. I normally see myself as separate from the Lord. So this particular oneness is indicated by the word yoga. And this Bhagavan is always one. We are always one with Bhagavan. It's not something that happens after, as an event in time. So we are totally separate from the Lord, or the Lord is separate from us. And then suddenly one fine morning, we become one with him. It's not like that. Bhagavan is always with us. Always. He is the Antaryami. But I don't recognize it. So that is what creates the separation. Here, there is a process by which I come to recognize Ishvara as non-separate from me. And so where does that recognition take place? Wherever all recognition takes place, in one's buddhi, in one's mind. So, and what kind of a mind? Not any mind. A mind that is endowed with sattva gunas, certain qualities of maturity and knowledge and so on. All that then manifests in that sattva guna mind as in the form of knowledge or recognition. So the one with whom I find that oneness in a mind that is a sattvic mind. He says, not only that, muda kridamanam. Muda kridamanam. So the one, this muda, there are certain words, all of which indicate happiness. Like, so, moda, priyam, moda, pramoda. These are all words that indicate happiness or sukham in various degrees. Okay. So moda is a happiness. Okay. The happiness that I experience in my mind. And so indicated by modaka. Really speaking, modaka is the one, the sweet, which gives happiness. Okay, which is joyful. So that's why Lord Sri Ganesha has modakas. He's always either holding a modakam, or he has it held in his trunk, or he's surrounded by it. So because he's always surrounded with joy, in the sense, because he's the source of all joy. He's the source of all ananda. That's why he's associated with this modaka, to indicate that Bhagavan is the source of all joy. So, and he says, not only that, muda kridamanam, the one who dances with joy. Sri Ganesha is depicted as one who dances with joy. Okay, under under Kalpavriksham, under this great tree that fulfills all one's desires, and he is generally with one leg on the ground, so firm on the ground, one leg raised up. That is his posture of dancing. So dancing like Nataraja. Nataraja is also like that. So one foot is on the ground, stationary, one foot is above. So he is both transcendent and immanent. And the dance itself is to indicate that. So the creation, we are talking about him as a creator. So now creation is a dynamic process. It's not, we are surrounded by a world which is constantly in motion in time and space. So it's a very dynamic process. It's not that Bhagavan once creates the world and then lets it stagnate there. It is always being created. It is always resolving. So this is a constant process that goes on. Surarin harantam. Surarin harantam. the one who destroys. Who are these? These Arihi is an enemy. So the one who are enemies of Devas, Suras are Devas. So the one who are enemies of in other words, the Asuras. Okay. So the Asuras, Rakshasas. Asuras indicate certain tendencies in us, really. It's what indicated. They're always the one that are causing obstacles to the Devas. And what are these obstacles? Puranas talk about Devas, they talk about Asuras. We don't need, they live in the various lokas. We don't necessarily even need to think of it there because they are there right here. Among the Manushyas itself, there are Devas and Asuras. Bhagavad Gita talks about this in terms of our disposition, in terms of our mind. Everybody has the potential called Daivi Sampat or Asuri Sampat. And one can go either way, one can cultivate either one. So here, the one who are in the nature of these tendencies in us, like pride, ego, and so on, that become obstacles to our growth, obstacles to our self-recognition, obstacles to finding that oneness with the Lord that is talked about. So these are what are called as Suraris. And he's the one who by whose blessing, so we are able to overcome all these negativities in us. And he is the one, Sri Ganesha is the one who is one who does that. He is Bhagavan. So I invoke him in these kinds of ways, Jagat Palayantam. He said he is Vishnu Rupam. So naturally, as Vishnu, he is the one who protects this whole universe, including all the beings in his. Nobody else protects us. It is really Bhagavan who protects us from the moment we are born till our last moment. And not only that, even throughout one's journey as a jiva. So you are the one who, as Sri Vishnu, sustains the entire universe. You're the one who protects the whole universe. Anekavataram. You are the one who manifests. Bhagavan manifests in so many different forms, Avatara is one of the other things, So avatars are divinities there, really speaking, always there around us. But then when it manifests, it's manifesting all the time, really speaking. But an avatara indicates a specific instance, a specific occurrence, because of which, so people invoke Bhagavan. So during difficult times, see, in Sri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati. When there is a decline of dharma, then I manifest to reset the course, like the reset button in your computer. Sometimes things get so chaotic that you have to reset the whole thing. Doesn't necessarily mean destroy everything. But then anyway, it's Bhagavan's way of whichever way he needs to reset all. That is what is called as an avatara. An avatara is in response to people's prayers to the Lord, people who are Satpurushas, who are caught up in all this chaos and adharma, and then they seek the help of the Lord. That's why in the Puranas, you'll always see these stories when before Bhagavan takes avatara, so there are always devas, etc., manushas, everybody goes to him with a lot of prayer. And then that prayer is the one that manifests in the form of Bhagavan's blessing, kripa. So Sri Ganesha also, you assumed so many avatars. In one of the Puranas, he says, in the Mudgala Purana, talks about, so 8 avatars of Sri Ganesha. Okay, Ashtavinayakas, Ashtavinayakas. And he took these avatars, you took these avatars to destroy 8 types of asuras. Not 8 types of asuras, 8 asuras. So there were asuras, and these are all, so these were their names were, so Kamasura, Krodhasura, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Madamatsarya, and then Ahamta and Mamata. So 6 plus 2, 8. These were the 8 different asuras that were there in different times. And then, so they were causing a lot of havoc. And so the devotees prayed to Lord Ganesha, and he manifests himself in the various forms. So thus, for Krodhasura, he manifests as Lambodara. Then for Lobhasura, he manifested Gajanana and Mahodara, as Ekadanta, Vakratunda, Dhumravarna. So like that, many different forms he took. So this is all there mentioned in the Puranas in the form of Puranic stories. So you're the one who took so many forms, so many avatars. Nijajnana harati, the one who removes. So you are also the one who removes the ultimate ajnanam, ignorance. Not which is the ultimate ignorance, is the starting ignorance. We have all kinds of ignorance, but it all begins with self-ignorance. I don't know who I am myself. I get to know so many things in the world in time. I don't get to know who I am in time. So we all start with ignorance of myself and of the world. We go out and seek the knowledge of the world. We forget to seek knowledge of ourselves. So that original ignorance, which is the starting point, you're the one who destroys it. Destroys it, helps me destroy it. Sada Vishnu Rupam Ganesham Natasmaha. Number 6. Tamo yoginam rudra rupam trinetram jagadharakam tarakam jnana hetum anekagamai swam janam bodhayantam sada sharvarupam ganesham natasmaha. Sada sharvarupam ganesham natasmaha. I bow down, I prostrate, I do namaskarams, I worship Sri Ganesha. Who's what? Who's Sada Sharva Rupam. Sharva Rupam. Sharva is a name for Shiva, means Shivam, the one who is in the form of auspiciousness. It is a name for Lord Shiva, also a name for Lord Vishnu. So here he says, you are also one of the Triputi, not only Brahma and Vishnu, but you're also Rudra Rupam. Tamo Yoginam Rudra Rupam Trinetram. This is one of the forms of Sri Ganesha. So as Trinetram, the one with the 3 eyes, the 3-eyed Rupam, for it's called Shubhadrishti Ganesha. There is one form of Ganesha, so which is called Shubhadrishti Ganesha, and he is shown as depicted with 3 eyes and also a crescent. Is Chandrasekhara, like Lord Shiva, and it is generally this murti is kept in the homes, so as for protection of the house. So that is one. He is Trinetram. Tamo Yoginam. Remember, I had mentioned last time that in Shiva Purana, they talk about these 3 forms of upasana or meditation for different types of minds. The mind that is predominantly tamasic, sattvic, and rajasic. So here he says it's called tamasa. There is a tamasa meditation that is talked about, where the form, a particular form of Sri Ganesha is meditated upon, holding the pashankusha, the noose and the gourd, and then he has modakas in his trunk, and also depicted blue in color, and a tusk, his tusk, which is the broken tusk, in another hand. You all know there's a couple of stories associated with this broken tusk. One has to do with breaking it in order to write the Mahabharata while Vyasa was dictating it to him. And the other story is also there associated with Parashurama. So Parashurama apparently he wanted to visit Lord Shiva, and then he goes there, and Sri Ganesha is standing there, so preventing anybody from coming in. So Parashurama didn't have a very calm disposition, so he becomes upset, he becomes angry. So who's this fellow, little fellow, trying to stop me? So he throws his axe at Sri Ganesha. You all know Parashurama's axe. Parashurama's axe was given to him by Lord Shiva, and Sri Ganesha knows that. And because it was a boon, an axe given to him by his father, so Sri Lord Ganesha doesn't do anything. He could have stopped it, but he doesn't. And then it ends up hitting his tusk, and then his tusk breaks. Later on, Parashurama realizes who he is. And so then he asks for forgiveness from him, from Lord Shiva, from Parvati, from everybody. And then all is okay after that. So anyway, there's another story associated with this broken tusk of his. So in any case, so this is a form that is described in order to do meditation or upasana. So anyway, Jagadharakam Tarakam Jnana Hetum. He's not only the one who sustains the universe, he says, the phenomenal world, he keeps it going, you know. Tameva Kevalam Dhartasi. There is Upanishad, Ganapati Upanishad, Ganapati Atharvana Shirsha Upanishad, is often always in the prayers in the temples and all, they recite this whenever they do Ganapati Puja. And there it is, a lot of these things are mentioned there also in a different way. So there in the prayer it says, Tvameva Kevalam Dhartasi, Tvameva Kevalam Hartasi, Tvam Sakshad Atmasi, like that all, it goes on. So there also is talked as the one who sustains the whole universe as Bhagavan, as the Lord. Not only that, you're the one who helps cross over. You're the Taraka. You're the one who crosses over the samsara, the life of sorrow, the life of limitations, the life of dukkham, dukkha sagaraha. So this samsara chakram, etc., helping a person through his blessings get over all of this. He's jnana hetum, the one who's the source of knowledge. Bhagavan is the source, so he is the omniscience. All knowledge comes through him. Knowledge is connected with fact. Okay. What is factual is knowledge. What is not factual is not knowledge. It is ignorance, it is error, it is mistake, and so on. So, fact is the truth of things is fact. Okay. This thing, something that cannot be changed, something that is fundamental. So, that which is associated with that, where does that come from? We didn't create any of this stuff. So, that which is the truth of things is connected to that jnanam. And that all jnanam begins with Parameshwara. That's why he is omniscient in the form of omniscience. So you're also this particular knowledge, the knowledge that helps me overcome samsara. So that knowledge also for us, it is Veda Pramanam, it's called Pramanam, the means of knowledge that helps me cross over this life of limitations. You are the one who's the source of that. And what happens with that knowledge? Anek agamaihi swam janam bodhayantam. Agamas. So this is Shastram being talked about. There are the various scriptures. There is one scripture only actually. There is only one Agama. When I look at it as knowledge, there is one knowledge. There is not many knowledges. But then what are these then many things? How many? This is a contention. Some people say you Hindus don't have a scripture like other scriptures. You know, other religions we have one scripture and they can name the one scripture. You don't have one scripture. You just have many books. So many different books. It's not scripture. So this is what they tell. I've heard this from people. So here is not like that. Knowledge is one. There is no many knowledges. So if you're talking of knowledge, then scripture is one. If you're talking of how it's communicated in many different ways. It's communicated through the Veda, through the Puranas, through Itihasas, through this prayer. Wherever you have this knowledge of Jiva, Parameshwara, oneness, this knowledge of this oneness, Aikyam, that is the knowledge. That is the Agama ultimately. But there are various means by which this knowledge is communicated. And they are called various agamas are there. So here there's another meaning of agamas, like we have different traditions of worship. That is also called as agamas, like Shaiva Agama, Vaishnava Agama, Shakta Agama, like that. So there are 6 main agamas in our Sanatana Dharma where we invoke Ganapatya Agama. This is one other form in which we invoke. So as Sri Ganapati, through Sri Ganapati, we invoke Bhagavan, Parameshwara, who's infinite. So because we have to relate, I mentioned last time, we need a form, Sagunam, to be able to relate. One cannot relate to Nirgunam. Nirgunam is to be recognized. Sagunam is to be for relating. So we invoke that infinite Lord as Sri Ganapati. That is, so it's called Ganapati Agama. So there is a certain tradition way of worship, worshipping that infinite Lord. So he says like that there are different ways by which people worship, but we all worship the same Lord. We all worship Bhagavan. So Anaikagamaihi, by these different ways and means, you bless, he says, Swam Janam Bodhayantam. Swam Janam, who are your Janam? Swam Janam is the devotees. Okay. So all the devotees, irrespective of what particular agama they follow, whichever way they invoke the Lord, in that way you help them and you bless them. Okay. Really speaking, the different agamas, people get caught up in all these things. So this Shiva and Vishnu and this one and that one and who's superior, who's inferior. This is all very immature way of, childish way of looking at it. Very soon you get over that kind of thinking. Once we realize that it's really all of it is one thing. And in fact, most of us recognize that. Therefore, we don't see any contention between these different ways of invoking the Lord. For us, it's not a problem. So just as for the gods also, it is not a problem. So Bodhayantam Sada Sharvarupam Ganesham Natasmaha. Number going on to 7. Tamasto Maharam Janajnanaharam Traivedasaram Parabrahma Param Muni Jnanakaram Vidure Vikaram Sada Brahma Rupam Ganesham Natasma. So having said this, you are the Triputi in terms of the manifestation. You are also Brahma Rupam. This is Brahma Rupam, Sagunam Brahma Rupam. Okay. You are the one, Bhagwan, you're this Rupam, the whole universe, in fact, is your Rupam. That is what is we call as Vishwarupam. Okay. The whole Vishwam is your Rupam because it is not separate from you. So you are the same. Now you see the same Nirgunam with respect to the manifest universe is called as Sagunam Brahma. Sometimes they use the term Karanam Brahma. Karanam is the cause. For what? For the Jagat, for the effect. So Karyam, the universe is the effect. Jagat is the effect. Karanam is the cause, Bhagavan or Ishvara. Anyway, so you are the one who removes all the tamas. Tamas are all the obstacles that are there. He mentioned earlier in terms of all the asuras and so on. And also in terms of ignorance. Janajnanaharam. Janam, Janati. Jana refers to birth. So the Ajnanam, the original Ajnanam, the original cause of all these problems is Ajnanam. So he says, Mula Jnanam, the one who removes the original cause of all the problems, which is in the form of self-ignorance, is the one. You are the one through your blessing, through the teachings, through the pramanam, through the shastram, all of these things put together. You help me remove it. How? Here he says, Trai Vedasaram, as the essence of the Vedas. So as the essence of the 3 Vedas. Sometimes they use 4 Vedas, sometimes they mention it in terms of 3 Vedas. So the Rik, Yajus, and Sama Veda. Keep in mind, these are not really that different. So Rik Veda is primarily Rik mantras. They are in the form of prayers, in the verse form. Okay, things have to be recited in a certain way. They are strongly associated with chandas, with swaras and all that. These are all the Rik mantras. But then there is, so the same teaching is presented in ways where it is not so rigid in terms of the verses and the recitation and mantras and so on. So even though there are similar mantras are there in Yajurveda also, but there you see a little bit more of prose kind of a way of approach, and then also talking more about the rituals and so on. Because of forms of prayers, different forms of prayers. Mantras are one form of prayer. Then pujas and rituals, karmas, yajnas are another form of prayer. And then we not only say, recite it, and we not only in the form of poetry, but also singing the same mantra. Sometimes there will be a same prayer which will be said, recited as a mantra. It is same which is said as in the rituals and so on. So when they give ahutis, and the same prayer will be sung in the form of sama. Okay, so the Vedas always carry the same message, whichever Veda they are. There is no progression in the ideas. They are just different ways of presenting it, and different ways of reciting it and so on. So thus these three different ways are there in the 3 Vedas. So the essence of all of this is the one, you are the essence in terms of knowledge, because that is what the Vedas are trying to convey, the knowledge of Jiva Brahma Aikyam, oneness between the individual and the Lord, the one who's the cause of everything, including the individual. So that is called as Aikyam, oneness. Parabrahma Param, you are the one who is Parabrahma Swarupam in the form, that is your Swarupam, that is your Rupam, that is your Swarupam. Muni Jnanakaram, you're the one who blesses all the munis. Munis are people who are seekers, those that seek to know you, those that seek to find oneness with you. You're the one who blesses them, and the one who blesses from a distance. Vidure Vikaram, you transform the seeker, in to the spiritual pursuit is one of inner transformation. Inside one has to transform. It's not just about knowing things, even though we talk so much about jnanam and all, but there is so many kinds of knowledges are there. It is not something you just pick up, it's not information gathering. I gather all kinds of information through Google and whatnot, right information, wrong information, everything. And then, so this is one more information. You can, in fact, you can look at any Veda, you can Google it, and it's all going to come up there, and you can read it. But that doesn't mean one gets knowledge. Okay. So gathering information is not knowledge. Knowledge that it doesn't exist in books, doesn't exist in the computer. It doesn't even exist as information in my mind. It is something that leads to an inner transformation of me of who I am, what I am. And unless I transform within, I won't, I won't reach what I'm trying to reach. I won't get what I'm trying to get. And that is what this knowledge is. It's not knowledge of things. It is knowledge that is centered on me, that is centered on myself. And so it's not even just knowledge of some of my thoughts and feelings. It's not some psychological knowledge. It's a knowledge of my very core, my very identity, of who I am, of what I am. And so with that, it cannot be without an inner transformation. The knowledge transforms me, and a transformation is the one in which knowledge fulfills itself. So he says, and all of this for Bhagavan, he does it from a distance. Why distance? There is no distance and proximity, really speaking, with Bhagavan. So He is distant if I feel he's distant. If I find myself, if I feel myself separate from the Lord, he is separate from me. If I see him as non-separate from me, he's non-separate from me because he is antaryami. So he is distant at one point. At another point, he becomes not distant at all. So, but you are the one who, even from a distance, he doesn't have to actually do anything. Just by Bhagavan being there, by his kripa, this transformation, the one who brings about this change is you are of that form. He says, Ganesham Natas Maha. Moving on to 8. Nijairaushad Nijairaushadhaistarpayantam karodhaihi Suraughan Kalabhi Sudhasravinibihi Dinesham Shusantapaharam Dvijesham Shashanka Swarupam Ganesham Natasmaha. Shashanka Swarupam. This is Bhagavan, So, we are seeing all manifestations of the Lord. Okay. So, because he is non-separate from the earth, from the universe, from including us. Okay. So, everything that is manifest, it brings, these verses bring a certain awareness. Help us be awareful of the expressions of divinity that are around us and that are within us. You are Shashanka Swarupam, Shashankaha, Shashanka Shekharaha. Shashanka is the moon, the Shashi, Shashika Ank, Shashank, the crescent moon that you see in Chandrasekharaha. So it's called Shashanka, Shashanka Shekhara or Chandrasekhara. So we will see that, come back to that a little bit. So you are the one, the Lord who, I said one of the forms of Sri Ganesha, he has this crescent on his forehead. He says, in that particular form, I am the one who I worship you. The moon, so moon has the cooling rays. Before that, he says he is Dineshamsu Santapaharam. Dineshamshaha is Surya. Dineshaha is Surya. Dinesha, the Lord of the day, is Surya. And then his Amshuhu is his Amshas are the rays. So what do the rays do? The rays of the sun. They not only give me life, they enlive in me, but they also can be uncomfortable. When they are too hot, then tapaha. There's a lot of heat and discomfort and pain also. So he says that is one manifestation of Bhagavan. Okay. He's a very life giver, but then he's the one who removes the pain, he says. The pain born of Dinesha. In other words, so the life-giving principle, we are born here, and then there are so many things we do. But here, in accomplishing things, we can also end up with pain. In our accomplishments, there can be pain. Without the accomplishments, there can be pain. Getting it, we can be miserable. Not getting things, we can be miserable for the same reason. So all these things are there. So the one, he says, the one who removes all this tapa, all the born afflictions, born of whatever we accomplish in life. So Surya is like he's a life giver and also the pain giver. That is the nature of this world. So the one who helps me overcome that. And not only that, you are like the Shashanka Swarupam. You are like the moon, because moon gives us a break from the scorching rays of the sun. Because moon is cooling. It cools things down at night. So you are both. You are the one. He is a Vigna Harta. He is a Vigna Karta. He is the one who gives obstacles. Not why does Bhagavan give us obstacles? Really, really speaking, you wonder why does he do this? What does he get out of it? Well, he doesn't do it only Only answer one can often comes up with is, oh, he's testing us. He's testing. Of course, then the next question, why is he testing us? So I can see the teachers in school test us to see if I know or I don't know something. What is Bhagavan testing us for? Oh, he's testing our inner strength. Does he really? He's the one who gave it to us. We are born with certain capacities. We have certain strengths. We have certain weaknesses. What is he testing us for? To what degree of test is he looking for? Not really. Bhagavan doesn't need to test anybody for anything. Bhagavan is the one who gives everything. What is he testing us for, really speaking? So then why is he giving us all these struggles? Well, these are struggles which every struggle that we have, every obstacle that we cross only makes us become stronger. It's like a stress test. You stress yourself and then you overcome that stress. If you don't overcome it, you fall apart. It's over, really speaking. But we overcome it. Nature never gives us anything more than we have the capacity to bear. And but in bearing that, it also makes us stronger. But we have to have the right attitude and the right frame of mind to be able to accept things when they come and deal with them when they come, and in the process try to grow from them. It's not centered on Bhagavan. It's also centered on the nature of things. So there are choices are there, actions are there. We have to learn, we have to grow. And so it's all part of the process. There is no growth without pain. So that is the nature of growth. In growth, I have to give up something in order to get something. If I have to grow, I have to give up the comfort. A child gives up the comfort and security of childhood in order to become a youth, and to gain the things of a youth. But you lose your childhood in the process. When you gain adulthood, you lose your youthfulness. When you gain old age, you lose your adult age. So thus, this is how it is. And so it's the nature of growth is like that in everything. So the one who helps me overcome both sides of this growth process, he says. The one who Kurodaihi, there's another version also of this particular the reading that has to do with, so Sri Ganesha, you are the one who took on the Kuru Vamshas. You gave up your position to become a scribe, to become one to write down the story of the Kuru Vamsha, and in order to bless the humanity. So that, because it's all about life, it's all about living, it's all about how one applies dharma and consequences, etc. All that Mahabharata is nothing but a lesson of life. So thus you took on that role and and wrote the whole book for the people. And not only that, Suraudhan Kalabihi, Sudha Sravini Bhi. You are the nectar. Sudha is the nectar. So the flowing nectar and of your kalas. This kala is interesting thing is, so there is what we call as shodasha kala. There are different types of kala. It has different meanings. So one of the meanings in Tantra Shastram, they talk about these kalas, 16 kalas. It refers to the moon, really speaking, to the moon. So the moon moon is a very interesting thing. Satellite. It's a satellite. It goes around the earth. And there are so many other planets are there, things are there around, going around the sun. No, but the moon, the interesting thing about moon is, so you look at the moon. So, olden days you look out in the sky, you look at the moon. It doesn't remain the same. It doesn't look the same. It changes. So it becomes big, full moon, and then slow, and then it disappears. Not there. And then again, there's a new moon. Between the new moon and the full moon, it goes through changes. So kala, the word kala means a digit or a limb or a part. So they divide this into 15. The moon has these 15 kalas, It has to do with the 15 days of the moon. Okay, the sthiti, one particular cycle. So between the new moon and the full moon is 15 days. Okay, so this in the 15 days it reduces, then disappears, and then again it shows up, and then it becomes full. So this waxing and waning of the moon, each day is one kala, is one part. So like that, 15 part is there. Then there is a Shodasha Kala. The Shodasha, the 16th one is there. The 16th one is an invisible. It's an invisible Kala. And that invisible in Shaiva, in the Shaiva Agamas, they talk about it like this. It's a language. It's a way of saying things. So here, it's like him in almost like the new moon hiding behind the full moon. The moon is there. When you look in the sky, child will say, what happened to the moon? Did the moon disappear? The moon doesn't disappear. The moon is still there, but it is lost. It looks like it's lost. That's a new moon. That's a new moon. The new moon. Then this new moon manifests, and it manifests above, then becomes the full moon. And then the full moon again resolves and then doesn't disappear. It is there, but it is not manifest. I cannot see it. This is how this Jagat is. This is how this whole universe manifests and resolves. And so that Shakti by which this happens is represented by this Kala, by these parts. So Shiva, Maya Shakti. So Shiva and Shakti are this Kala, or the potential by which this whole universe is manifest. Like there's a beautiful metaphor used to describe this Shiva and Shakti. What is Ishvara's Shakti and how it manifests and so on. So this is what is called as Shodasha Kala. And so is the Chandra Kala. So Chandra Kala is also like that. So you with your Chandra Kala that is there on your forehead, you are the Shakti of the one that manifests this whole Srishti, this whole Jagat. Yeah, that has to do with the scribe, the role of the one who sat and wrote Mahabharata for the sake of the world. Okay, where are we? Okay. Prakasha Swarupam Nabho Vayurupam Vikaradihetum Kalakala Bhutam Aneka Kriya Aneka Shakti Swarupam Sada Shakti Rupam Ganesham Natasmaha. Okay. Prakasha Swarupam Nabho Vayurupam Vikaradihetum Kala Kala Bhutam. Prakasha Swarupam. You are in the form of Prakasha, in the light, form of light. What is the ultimate light? The ultimate light is the one that lights up everything. And that ultimate light is the light of consciousness. Tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam. Tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. So that light of consciousness, the inner light of consciousness, is the nature swarupam. You are the ultimate, because of which everything becomes evident to me. Minus consciousness, there is nothing even evident to me. Consciousness means everything is evident to me. What is there, even what is not there. So you are in the form of this ultimate Prakasha Swarupam. That is your Swarupam itself, indeed. Not only that, you are in the form of everything. From you, everything is manifest. And what do you mean by everything? All that I experience, the phenomenal world, the world of phenomenon, the world of experience, not only the physical objects, but objects as experienced by me. Not everyone experiences the world in the same way. We all experience the same world, but not in the same way. So we all experience it differently. That's why, as a phenomenon, at various phenomenon of our own experience, that's why there's a personal element to it. And so this is the whole manifest is really your doing. It is your play. It is you manifesting. So he says, in the form of the elements and so on. Nabho Vayu Rupam. So like Akasha, Akashaha, Vayu, Akashad, Vayu, Vayor Agni, Agni Rapaha. Adbhya Prithvi, Prithivya Oshadayaha, Oshadibhyo Annam, Annat Purushaha, the Vedas tell us. The Upanishads talk about this. So the process by which things manifest. Not only that, the world that is manifest is not stagnant. It is not stationary. It is dynamic. It is manifold. It is infinite in its form and variety. And that not only that, it changes. It's constantly changing. And this process of change is called as vikaras. And you are also vikaradi hetum. You are the one, you are the one behind who sustains all of these change, because you sustain time, you sustain space, you sustain all the changes that are occurring in it. Kala Kala Bhutam. Kala Kala Bhutam. We saw one meaning of Kala, the Kalas. There's another Kalas also they talk about. So Kalas in terms of, so various forms of creativity. There's Chatushashti Kalas they talk about. So 64 forms of, different forms of creativity, like music, dance, architecture, etc. All various forms of knowledge, arts, and so on. Like that, various they are described in our tradition. You are the one who is behind all your glory. Wherever I see an expression of glory, he says that is where Bhagavan is. That is where Bhagavan is manifest. Bhagavan is manifest everywhere. A glory, something glorious is something which I notice, which I notice. And so that's why we say, oh my God, look at this. So we are impressed by that. We recognize this is otherworldly, this is divine. And a wise person looks at anything in the world, and that is how he views everything that he or she sees, he says. So all this, you're in the form of all these kalas. Kala also can refer to time. In astronomy, the time is so many kalas constitute one muhurtam. So like that is also in terms of times. Many different meanings are there. Aneka kriya, aneka shakti swarupam. So you are thus in the form of various kinds of potentials, various kinds of manifestations. And to that form, he says, Sada Shakti Rupam. You are Shakti Rupam. You are in the form of this power, this Shakti, Maya Shakti, Ishvara Shakti. Ganapati is represented in the Puranas in the form of his consorts. So as our Siddhi, Buddhi, and Riddhi. So there are three consorts talk about Siddhi and Buddhi in some of the Puranas, and also in Matsya Purana it talks of it as Riddhi and Buddhi. Instead of Siddhi there is Riddhi, and so Sri Ganesha is associated with this the Maya Shakti, which is represented in the form of these Devis. Certain forms of Ganesha, you will see him with Shakti. Certain forms, you don't see him, like Shakti Ganapati and Sovara Ganapati. So like that, Sankadhara Ganapati, like that, there are certain forms of Ganesha where Devi's Shaktis are there. His consorts are there with him. There's another unique form of Shakti, Shakti Ganesha, which is Sri Ganesha depicted as Shakti in a female form. So it's called as Vinayaki, called Vinayaki, Ganeshini, Vigneshwari, like that, by that name, She is mentioned in some of the Puranas, and also in several temples, you can see her form, Pradhana Swarupam Mahattattva Rupam Dharavari Rupam Digishadi Rupam Asat Sat Swarupam Jagad Hetu Bhutam Sada Vishwarupam Ganesham Natasmaha. So he says, you are Pradhana Swarupam. Pradhanam is another word for Prakriti. They talk of Purusha and Prakriti, which really is, in another language, we say Ishvara and Shakti. Ishvara and Maya Shakti. So we saw Maya Shakti in the previous verse, how Shakti is there with Ishvara all the time. So like that, even with Ganesha, Ganesha invoked as, so the Lord Ishvara invoked in the form of Ganesha, Shakti has to be there. And so you have all these consorts there. But here, in another way, he says he is Pradhana Swarupam. You're in the form of Pradhana Shakti, or the Maya Shakti. The Mahatattva Rupam. Prakriti and Purusha together are called as Mahatattvas. Okay. So they manifest as Mahatattvam. Remember, I said from Bhagavan, everything is manifest. So there is some kind of an order talked about in the scriptures, and that order has to do with the nature of the world, the nature of the objects in terms of elements and subtlety and so on. We can't get into all of that here. But then, so that when Purusha and Prakriti manifest, they first manifest as Mahatattvam, and then they manifest as so many other things. Dhara Vari Rupam. Dhara is Prithvi. Vari is Apaha, or water, he says. Digishadi Rupam. All the manifest as the whole creation. So as the Devatas, first all the Devatas are manifest. Digisha is the lord of the Dig Devatas. Dig Devatas are, so the presiding deities of different directions. Of all each direction, there are actually there 53 of them are invoked in rituals. But then there are 8, generally 8 Ashtadik Palakas, which are all most familiar with in the 8 main directions. So they are all manifestation of you, he says. Asat Sat Swarupam. Asat there, that which is there and that which is not there. Okay. That which you see, that which you don't see. Because Sat and Asat. So that which is both in the form of seen things and unseen things. Not that everything we see, everything that is manifest we see. There are a lot of things we don't see, starting from coronavirus. So he says, Atsat Sat Swarupam, everything is non-separate from you. Jagat Hetu Bhutam. You are in fact the Hetu cause. Different types of cause are there. Cause in the form of knowledge. Knowledge is the first thing without which nothing manifests. So you are in the form of the knowledge, omniscience. You are in the form of Shakti. You are in the form of the whole manifest Jagat, he says. And thus you are Sada Vishwarupam. You are indeed Vishwarupam. Vishwam, there's this Vishwarupa Darshanam. Vishwarupa Darshanam is not another Darshanam of another Rupam. It's not like that. It is the Vishwam. In the whole Vishwam, I see Bhagavan. That is Vishwarupam, And that Vishwarupa Darshanam is not seeing the whole universe as separate from the Lord. That vision, that understanding is what Sri Krishna showed to Arjuna. And so he says, Sada Vishwarupam Ganesham, I salute you. And then the next 3 verses are there. They are in the form of, so concluding. So I will just read all of them and then we'll see the meaning quickly. Tvadiye manasthapaye yugme jano vignas sadhan apidam labeta. Once again. Lasat surya bimbe vishale sthiteyam jano dhvantabadham katham na labeta vayam brahmita sarvatha jnana yogat alabdhva tavangrim bahu varshapugan idani mavaptastavaiva prasadat prapannan sada pahi vishvambaradya. Evam stuto Ganeshaha tu santushtaha bhun mahamune kripaya parayo petaha abhidhatum tan prachakrame. Okay. So he says the one tvadiye manasthapaye angri yugme, the one who has his mind centered on you, fixed on your, so angri padme, on your lotus feet, the one who has his mind on your lotus feet. In other words, the one who has surrendered to you is the one who becomes free from all the vignas, all the pidas, all the sufferings, all the obstacles to one's spiritual growth. Okay? And he gains freedom from all of that, he says. You who are the one who shines like the rays of the sun, the one who is Vishalam, the one who is vast, who's all pervasive, who's Vyapakam, who's Sarva Vyapi. He says the one whose grace, without his grace, one would be. How would one get that? One who's always caught up in the darkness of ignorance. How can one free oneself from that without your grace? So, but the one who has surrendered to you, how can he not be freed from all of that? He says, Vayam Brahmitaha. We are all the time wandering around. We people who are always wandering due to ignorance, starting with ourselves, not knowing who we are, not knowing our relationship with you, not recognizing, not understanding our connection with you. He says we wander around here and there. We go, Jiva wanders all over and gets nowhere. A wise person goes nowhere and gets everywhere. He's all over the place. He's sarvavyapi. He doesn't have to go anywhere. And that is the inner transformation. Whereas a jiva, the one who doesn't know, he's wandering around. He goes all over. He goes all over from samsara, from life to life, from loka to loka. Where does he get? He doesn't get anywhere really. He just goes around wandering, like a gypsy. So he says, we are in that situation. Says, and without getting close to you for a long time, for many janmas, we've been wandering like that. But then having surrendered to you, when you please protect us, the one who pervades. What an irony it is. So he pervades the entire universe. We don't see him anywhere. He says, Evam Stutaha, O sage, great sage, may one who prays in this manner find contentment. This is a prarthana. So it's a prayer of the devotee. So, and then he says, I pray to the Lord, Sri Ganesha, to gain that ultimate end that we are all seeking. So with this particular prayer, with this particular verse, prayer, this stuti, Ganapati Stavam, comes to an end. And so, as I mentioned last time, this is attributed to Garga Rishi, and also according to some people who attribute it to Adi Shankaracharya. So either the first three verses or the whole thing. But as I mentioned last time, it is also many of these words and thoughts are taken from the prayer of Brahmaji to Sri Ganapati as Bhagavan, as Parameshwara. So with this, we conclude this particular talk. And Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.